Listen for a moment to the space between sounds, the faint hum of your room, the slow rhythm of your breath, the quiet click of time moving forward, whether we notice it or not. There is a softness in this silence, and there is a weight. You may feel both today, the softness that invites rest, and the weight that whispers about choices delayed, conversations avoided, and dreams filed under later. I am not here to accuse you. I'm here to sit beside you, to stretch out the heaviness so it is not crushing but clear, and to open a window where the air is honest and kind. This is not a warning shouted from far away. This is a hand on your shoulder saying, you still have time if you start now. Somewhere inside you already sense it. Life is generous, but it is not indefinite. The calendar fills by itself, the inbox grows by itself, and without noticing what is urgent steals what is essential. If you are tired, I see you. If you feel behind, I see you. If you are successful in public yet restless in private, I see you. Under the surface, your nervous system has been working overtime, scanning for threats, cycling through old loops, reacting fast and thinking later. There is a nobility in survival, but it is not the same as wisdom. Survival keeps you alive. Wisdom teaches you how to live. This is where Solomon meets us, not as a distant legend, but as a practical voice for complicated days. His counsel is not mystical fog. It is simple, grounded, and quietly revolutionary. Listen to how it lands in the body. When you hear words that align with truth, your breath steadies, your shoulders drop, and the prefrontal part of your mind, the clear, planning, steady part, comes back online. That is not an accident. It is how we are designed. Wise guidance calms the alarms inside the chest, so your best judgment can speak. When truth is gentle and firm at the same time, the heart stops bracing and starts listening. Last chance may sound harsh, so let me soften the edges without losing the urgency. This is not the final minute before the lights go out. This is the final minute before your habits decide for you. Every day, your patterns lay bricks in a direction, and the wall is either protecting your future or quietly boxing it in. Brains change, they really do, but they are shaped by repetition, and repetition cannot be borrowed from tomorrow. The opportunity is now, not because doom is near, but because your future self is. The person you hope to become is waiting at the next decision, not the next decade. So we will slow down just enough to move wisely. Place a hand over your chest and feel the lift and fall. Let your breath be an anchor. Inhale slowly as if you are smelling rain. Exhale as if you are fogging a window with warmth. Notice how the body obeys permission, how calm makes room for courage. Tonight, we will not pile on guilt or pretend urgency is virtue. We will do something quieter and far more powerful. We will allow simple wisdom to meet real life, and we will let that meeting change the next small action you take. Small actions repeated reshape a life. Small actions repeated rewrite a story. Small actions repeated become the person you trust yourself to be. If you have postponed the conversation, if you have delayed the plan, if you have numbed the ache with busyness, you are not broken, you are human. Yet you are also ready to trade frantic for focused, ready to exchange shiny for steady, ready to choose words that heal and boundaries that bless. Solomon's voice will not scold you, it will guide you, like a lamp that does not blind but makes the path believable again. Let the hourglass keep falling, we are not racing it, we are aligning with it. And as these minutes open, ask yourself one kind, piercing question that will frame everything we touch next. If wisdom knocked on your door tonight and waited, patient, steady, unafraid, what would you finally decide to begin before the day ends? There is a kind of tired that does not come from work, but from waiting. It lives in the jaw that stays slightly clenched, in the shoulders that never quite drop, in the mind that keeps looping through possible outcomes as if the loop itself could produce courage. You know this place. The calendar is full, yet the essential decision sits untouched, like a letter left unopened on the table. It is not laziness, it is the ache of wanting more light before taking one honest step. The heart says later, and later becomes a hallway with no doors. I'm not here to judge that hallway. I'm here to walk it with you until a door appears. The ancient voice of wisdom enters that hallway like daylight finding a seam. It does not shout. It points to the smallest, humblest teacher, the ant, moving grain by grain while summer still holds. It points to the farmer who keeps reading the sky and never plants because the wind is not perfect. The lesson presses gently into the body. Movement creates the clarity that waiting keeps promising. Breath slows when you consider that truth. The chest feels a little wider. The mind, so used to scanning for danger, begins to release its grip because a path without drama is finally visible. Not a grand gesture, not a rescue, a path. Delay is expensive in ways we rarely price. It charges interest in hidden currencies. It takes from our health when sleep is cut by worry, and when the body holds the posture of dread. It takes from our work when energy is spent rehearsing outcomes instead of building them. It takes from our relationships when we are present but preoccupied, when the people we love receive the shell of us while our attention argues in another room. Delay looks quiet from the outside. Inside, it is loud. Inside, it consumes. There is a belief that feels reasonable and still keeps us stuck. I will act when I have more clarity. It sounds wise until you notice that clarity often arrives only after you begin. The first step does not answer every question, but it opens the questions that matter and silences the ones that do not. The nervous system understands this. Action that aligns with truth steadies the inner alarms. The mind regains its planning strength. The heart has room to be brave without pretending to be fearless. What begins as obedience to a small nudge becomes momentum, and momentum becomes a compass. Think of time not as a threat, but as an hourglass on your desk. Grain by grain, it falls whether you stare at it or not. Ignoring it does not stop the flow. Fighting it does not reverse it. What changes everything is how you meet it. If each grain is met with one small act of alignment, the falling sand builds something beneath you, a foundation that holds. If each grain drops while you hesitate, the same sand piles up around your feet and makes movement heavier tomorrow. Small choices are never small. They are compounding. They gather interest either for you or against you. You may feel a gentle push right now, the kind that whispers rather than commands. It might concern a conversation that would clean the air. It might concern a quiet boundary that would protect your peace without punishing anyone. It might concern a plan that has lived in your notes for too long and deserves a first sketch in the open. Notice how your body reacts as you picture acting. A breath you did not know you were holding may release. That release is information. The truth often feels like air returning to a room that had become stuffy. The wisdom tradition offers anchors instead of alarms. Consider the ant again, its steady rhythm that refuses to wait for perfect conditions. Consider the watcher of the wind who never begins, not because the work is hard, but because the forecast is never flawless. These images are not threats. They are mirrors. They show us where we have been scanning the sky for guarantees when all we needed was daylight for one step. The ache you feel to move forward is not impatience. It is health returning. Let the idea of obedience be tender on your tongue, not blind compliance, not performance. Obedience here means honoring what you already know to be right. The first time you do it, the change is quiet. The second time, the heart trusts you a little more. The third time, the path stops looking like fog and starts looking like a road. This is how character is built without fanfare. This is how integrity stops being a word and becomes a weight that keeps you steady when life tilts. Some give a simple name to this beginning. They call it the first 10 minutes rule. Not a slogan to impress anyone, not a trick to tame the day. Only the gentle practice of giving the first quiet minutes to the one wise action you have been avoiding. You do not have to wrestle the whole task. You honor the threshold. You touch the door handle and you open it. The body learns that the door does open, and fear loses its favorite argument. The mind learns that progress is not a mood, but a rhythm. What if the thing you are avoiding is not big, but it is first? What if the decision you keep setting aside is taxing your future more than any bill with a due date? What if clarity is waiting for you on the other side of the smallest faithful step? Sit with this question as if it were a friend who refuses to flatter you. What decision am I postponing that is silently taxing my future? Let the words rest in the room. Let them move through you without rush. Notice the image that rises first. Trust that image enough to name it. This is not a call to hurry. This is a call to honesty. You have carried the weight of later long enough. Wisdom is not demanding payment. It is offering relief. The hourglass keeps falling as it always has, but there is peace in knowing that the sand is building something beneath your feet. Grain by grain, step by step, obedience by obedience, your life takes shape in the direction you have longed for quietly. You are not behind. You are at the door, and the door is ready to be opened. There is a glitter that looks like triumph from a distance and feels like sand in the mouth up close. The calendar fills, the numbers rise, the title on the door gleams a little brighter, and yet something inside keeps glancing at the clock as if freedom has been postponed again. The body knows before the mind admits it. Sleep grows thin. The jaw tightens. Laughter comes slower. Success without alignment exhausts the nervous system because it keeps you sprinting in shoes that do not fit. It is a strange fatigue, a brightness that burns rather than warms, a room full of applause where your heart hears only the echo. Many of us were taught a simple equation that never truly worked. If it pays, it is worth it. It sounds like prudence, but it ignores a deeper math. Some gains are losses wearing cologne. Some trophies carry a tax that does not show up on any statement. The conscience pays it. The family pays it. The body pays it. You can get what you wanted and feel smaller as you hold it. You can cross the finish line and realize the race did not lead home. When you chase only the shine, you trade stable joy for unstable adrenaline, and the mind becomes hooked on the next deal, the next nod, the next hit of being needed. Solomon speaks into this with the calm of someone who has tasted everything and kept only what nourishes. He describes labor that multiplies anxieties and increase that spreads a shadow over the very table it was meant to bless. He also names another way. There is a kind of prosperity that settles the air in the chest. There is a kind of favor that adds peace rather than panic. The difference is not the amount, but the alignment. Wealth that strains the soul is a warning, not a crown. Increase that breaks the home is not promotion, it is warning, dressed as reward. Think about the moments that should feel like celebration, but land like rain inside the house. The deal closed, but the appetite for risk grew wilder. The salary climbed, but the mirror showed a stranger. The public praise felt warm in the room and cold in the car. This is not because you are ungrateful, it is because your inner compass still works. The body sends signals when your path gains speed while losing meaning. The heart keeps asking a brave and honest question. Is this growth or is this noise? That question is not sabotage, it is mercy. There is an image that helps. Fool's gold shines in the pan, but stains the hands that grab it. It looks like treasure. It feels like triumph. It leaves a mark that takes time to wash away. The mark shows up in hurried decisions that do not match your values, in late-night justifications that do not quiet the ache, in mornings where you wake with a success hangover and a tenderness you cannot explain. When the shine demands that you become someone you do not respect, the bargain is already too expensive, no matter the price on the contract. So how do we discern without living in fear? Wisdom gives a simple lens that clears the fog. Measure every door by purpose, by people, by price. Purpose asks what this choice serves in the story you are actually trying to live. People asks who will be better or worse because you said yes. Price asks what this will cost that money cannot replace. When those three answer in harmony, the body relaxes. When they argue, the body warns you with pressure in the chest and a mind that keeps rehearsing reasons. Pay attention to that pressure. It is not weakness, it is guidance. Look gently at the fruit of a life led by shine alone. You will find a rhythm of anxious wealth, of identity tied to outcomes, of relationships asked to carry what only inner peace can hold. You will find a hurry that never lands, a constant audition for belonging, a tired smile on someone who is always almost home. Then look, just as gently, at the fruit of a life aligned with wisdom. The pace may still be fast, but the center is quiet. The mind plans with clarity because the values are settled. Work becomes an expression, not a hiding place. The table becomes a refuge again. There is a tenderness in admitting that certain wins are too costly. It does not make you small. It makes you honest. Honesty lowers the cortisol of constant performing. Honesty brings the thinking brain back online and lets your better judgment breathe. With that breath, new options appear. You begin to see opportunities that let you keep your integrity while still building something that matters. You begin to recognize offers that would make you impressive and empty, and you let them pass without feeling like you failed a test. Some call this practice profit with principle, not a slogan for a wall, a quiet promise to your future self. You can prosper in a way that allows you to sleep. You can expand without eroding what makes you whole. You can choose projects that honor your calling, protect your relationships, and respect the limits that keep you human. When you do, your work stops arguing with your soul. The shine does not disappear. It simply stops demanding worship. Let your heart sit with a question that reveals rather than condemns. What win is costing me what money cannot repair? Breathe as you ask it. Feel how the body reacts. If there is a sting, do not rush it away. Stings carry information. Truth touches tender places before it heals them. If the answer is that nothing is being lost right now, give thanks with humility. If the answer is that something precious is being traded, let that awareness be the turning point you will one day describe as the moment everything began to heal. This is not an argument against success. It is an invitation to redefine it. Prosperity that multiplies sorrow is counterfeit. Prosperity that multiplies peace is the real thing. When integrity leads, blessing does not bully you into busyness. It steadies you. It steadies your home. It steadies your mind. And when the applause fades, as it always does, you will still like the person you became to achieve it. Some seasons feel crowded yet strangely lonely, full of voices and short on wisdom, full of noise and thin on nourishment. You keep showing up for people you love, and still you leave certain rooms with a quiet ache, as if your strength slipped out before you did. The body notices first. Shoulders lift a little higher around certain names. Sleep goes shallow after certain conversations. You are not weak for feeling this. You are awake. Your nervous system is trying to protect you from agreements you never meant to sign, from influences you never meant to welcome, from patterns that arrived as companionship and settled in as compromise. There is a tender misunderstanding that keeps many souls exhausted. Love is not endless access. Love is patient and generous and brave, yes. But love does not require you to make your life a hallway without doors. When every voice has a key, wisdom loses its room. When every request becomes a right, your peace becomes a public space. Boundaries are not rejection. Boundaries are mercy. Mercy for you because your heart needs shelter to stay kind. Mercy for them because without limits, even good people begin to lean on you in ways that stunt their own growth. Solomon's path brings this down to earth with a simple truth. Walk with the wise, and something inside you learns the rhythm of wisdom. Keep violent tempers close, and something inside you memorizes their storms. Human beings are beautifully contagious. We borrow habits the way lungs borrow air. We absorb attitudes the way skin absorbs light. The brain is built to mirror the people near us, to attune to their tone, to copy their courage or their fear. This is why some rooms leave you taller and calmer, while others leave you jittery and unsure. It is not magic, it is design. There is a saying that proximity is permission. The ones who stand closest to you are granted silent authority to shape your thinking, your mood, your choices. This is not judgment, it is stewardship. A wise circle is not a museum of perfect people. It is a table where truth and kindness keep their seats, where correction is gentle and firm, where joy is not jealous of your joy. An unwise circle is not full of villains. It's a room where chaos is normal, where gossip feels like intimacy, where outrage is a sport, where your best self begins to feel like an overreaction. Picture your inner world as a walled garden at dusk. There is a gate, there is a keeper, there are paths that lead to the places where you think and rest and pray and plan. Who has the right to enter without knocking? Who may sit by the fire when your strength is low? Who must be greeted kindly at the fence and guided back to the path outside? This is not cruelty, this is care. When the gate is honored, the garden heals. When the gate is ignored, thorns take over the paths meant for reflection and renewal. Ask your soul a quiet question and wait for the first honest picture that rises. Which relationship adds chaos more than counsel? Do not rush to defend anyone. Let the question breathe. The answer might surprise you. It might be a dear friend who is tender but always in crisis, and your compassion has turned into permission for patterns that hurt you both. It might be a colleague who inspires your ambition but erodes your integrity by inches. It might be a mentor whose advice is brilliant and cold, leaving your heart strong and your spirit shivering. Honesty is not betrayal. Honesty is the beginning of a better way to love. There is another question that heals in hidden ways. Who leaves you more yourself? You will know them by the way your mind clears in their presence, by the way your breath deepens without trying, by the way gratitude rises for no reason at all. Around them, you do not have to become smaller to be welcome. Around them, you do not have to pretend cynicism is wisdom. Iron sharpens iron, not by pounding you into a different shape, but by revealing the edge you already carry and removing the dullness that life adds to useful things. Imagine a simple table with 5 chairs bearing the names of the voices closest to you. Imagine the stories that follow each name and the fruit that grows from walking with them. Some fruit is sweet and strengthens you. Some fruit is bitter and keeps you returning for reasons that are no longer healthy. If a chair needs to move farther from the fire, it can move without ceremony. If a chair belongs nearer to the warmth, there is room. This is not about building walls to hide behind. It's about building gates that open and close with purpose so that love can be strong without being thin. When access is curated with care, something beautiful happens inside the body. The constant alarm of people-pleasing fades. The thinking mind returns with its quiet steadiness. The heart stops bracing for impact and starts expecting good again. You find yourself speaking truth with a clear tone rather than a tight one. You find yourself resting without the guilt that comes from carrying everyone all the time. You become safer to be around because your yes means yes and your no means no, spoken without resentment and held without drama. A wise circle does not eliminate pain, but it changes pain into growth. In the company of the wise, your questions are honored and your blind spots are not exploited. Your calling is protected from the small erosions that come from cynical talk and constant urgency. You begin to notice a quiet pattern. The more carefully you guard the gate, the more generously you can give inside it. The more carefully you honor the voices you allow close, the more clearly you can hear the still guidance of God that never competes with chaos. If loyalty has kept you near to patterns that drain you, let this be a gentle turning, not a dramatic exile, a rebalancing. The garden of your life is precious. The gate is an act of love. The people meant to walk with you will understand the path you are choosing. The people meant to learn from your boundary will be given a chance to grow. And you, finally, will feel the strength that returns when counsel is curated with courage and kindness. Your circle is your future. Your future is waiting at the gate. There are fires that begin without a spark you can see, flames that catch from a sentence tossed into the air, an impulse posted in haste, a truth spoken sharp instead of steady. You feel it in the body before the consequences arrive. The chest tightens after the message is sent. Heat rises in the face as the reaction comes back. Sleep pulls away because the mind keeps replaying a moment that could have been gentle if it had been just a little slower. Reputations do not always fall to lies. Often they are bruised by truths delivered without wisdom, by opinions thrown like stones, by words that carried more force than care. There is a belief that sounds brave and wears you down. Saying it raw is being real. It promises freedom, but hands you fallout. Honesty is holy, but honesty without timing becomes a blade you hand to the wrong moment. Wisdom does not dilute truth. Wisdom wraps truth in the tone and timing that allow it to be received. When message and moment move together, the body relaxes. Shoulders drop, the breath evens out. The nervous system hears safety, and the thinking mind returns to the room. This is not performance. This is stewardship of power, because words carry life, and they also carry death, and the mouth can plant both. You have seen the practical cost when impulse wins the microphone. Unnecessary enemies appear where dialogue could have grown. Trust bends under the weight of a sentence you wish you could recall. Public moments that should have been quiet become permanent records, and apology becomes a daily companion. None of this makes you a villain. It makes you human in a noisy age. Yet there is a wiser pace available, one that lets you be truthful without becoming harsh, one that lets you be courageous without setting fires you never meant to light. Think of your words as seeds carried in the palm. Each syllable contains a future. Some seeds are for shade and rest, some are for food and strength, some are thorns and will tear the skin if thrown carelessly. When the hand moves with intention, a garden appears. When the hand flings from frustration, weeds take the ground and ask for years to undo what seconds created. Patience is not silence for its own sake. Patience is the pause that lets you choose which future you are planting. In that pause, your body settles, your breath steadies, your judgment wakes up and remembers who you intend to be. Ancient wisdom offers a simple image that carries great weight. 3 gates stand between thought and speech. The first gate asks if it is true. The second gate asks if it is necessary. The third gate asks if it is timely. Truth without necessity is often vanity. Necessity without timing is often violence. Timing without truth is often manipulation. All 3 together make words that heal instead of harm. When any gate closes, it is mercy. When all 3 open, speech becomes a gift, even when it is hard to hear. Your body already knows this. It softens when the gates align. It hardens when they do not. There are moments when silence is not avoidance. Silence is protection. It protects relationships from words that cannot be unsaid. It protects your integrity from the thrill of winning an argument at the cost of being kind. It protects the future from a record that would misrepresent your heart. There are moments when speech is not aggression. Speech is rescue. It rescues truth from confusion. It rescues a friend from a path they cannot see clearly. It rescues your own soul from the corrosion that comes from pretending. Wisdom is the art of sensing which moment you are in. Let your memory bring back a conversation that went wrong, not because of what you believed, but because of how you carried it. Feel the body's tension as if you are touching a scar. Then recall a moment where you spoke with weight and warmth at the same time, where you did not shrink and you did not attack, where the other person breathed easier, even while adjusting to a harder truth. That contrast is a teacher. It shows how tone can open a door that content alone cannot. It shows how patience can carry meaning farther than volume ever will. Guidance from Solomon rests under this like bedrock. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. Answer a fool according to their folly and you become like them. Yet there is a time to answer so that folly does not believe itself to be wisdom. Draw near to speak with care, few words and a listening heart, because words multiply pain when they outrun reverence. These are not slogans for a wall. They are practices for a life. They train the mouth to serve the heart, and the heart to serve the truth, and the truth to serve love. You may notice how your nervous system responds when you prepare to speak with intention. The pulse slows, the jaw unclenches, The mind stops rehearsing a courtroom speech and begins to search for language that holds dignity on both sides. This physiology is not a small detail. It is a sign that your inner world is aligning with your outer voice. In that alignment, you will find a steadiness that keeps you from lashing out and a courage that keeps you from disappearing. Your presence becomes both firm and gentle, and that combination changes rooms. There is a quiet practice many have found helpful when the stakes are high. They picture the three gates as real places they must pass through. If truth opens, they step. If necessity opens, they step. If timeliness opens, they step. If any gate closes, they pause without shame. The pause is not failure. The pause is faithfulness to wisdom. Sometimes the gates open hours later, and the words land as healing rather than heat. Sometimes the gates remain closed, and the silence itself becomes the most honest sentence you could offer. Let one final question settle over this chapter like a hand that steadies rather than scolds. What would silence protect and what would speech redeem today? Listen to the first answer that rises without forcing it. Perhaps silence would protect your peace from a quarrel designed only to drain you. Perhaps speech would redeem a misunderstanding that has grown roots it does not deserve. Either way, you are not powerless. You are entrusted with a voice that can build or break, soothe or scorch, bless or burden. You are learning the sacred pace at which truth becomes kindness and courage becomes care. When wisdom times truth, your words stop chasing victory and start seeking wholeness. The public record becomes less crowded with regret. The private soul becomes less crowded with rehearsed defense. And in a world that shouts to be heard, your quiet, timely voice will carry farther than thunder because it carries the rare weight of a heart at peace with what it says and when it says it. There comes a moment when the applause of now grows quiet and another sound rises, softer and deeper, like water beneath the ground. It is the sound of your name, traveling ahead of you and behind you, the echo of who you have been shaping, what others will become. The body feels this question before the mind can frame it. The chest lifts with a kind of holy weight. The eyes sting for reasons that are hard to explain. You understand in your bones that prosperity without wisdom is a windfall without a map, and that a good name is not an accident of reputation, but a harvest of character lived long enough to put down roots. We are taught to count what fits inside ledgers and screens. Yet the richest parts of a life refuse to be captured by totals. Patience cannot be deposited, but it pays your children forward. Courage cannot be invoiced, but it clears a path when fear would have narrowed it. Mercy does not appear in quarterly reports, but it softens the air at every table where you are remembered. When Solomon speaks of inheritance, he is not merely pointing to assets passed from one hand to another. He is pointing to the first inheritance, the one that does not rust, the one that teaches sons and daughters what to love and what to leave alone. Think of a tree at the edge of a field, the kind that outlives storms and droughts and years when harvests were thin. You see branches that stretch into weather, and you admire the reach. What holds that reach is hidden. Roots go deep where eyes cannot follow, drinking from steady places and anchoring what would have snapped in lesser winds. Legacy works like that. The visible is impressive. The invisible is essential. Titles, trophies, and transactions are branches. Integrity, humility, and reverence are roots. When the ground shakes, branches sway. When the ground shakes, roots decide whether the tree remains. It is easy to leave goods. It is harder and holier to leave wisdom. Goods without wisdom become a spark near dry leaves, a sudden blaze that dazzles and then consumes. Wisdom directs goods toward flourishing. Wisdom steadies the hand that inherits, so that generosity outruns vanity and stewardship outruns impulse. You can feel the difference in your body when you imagine handing someone you love a gift that will bend them toward peace instead of pressure. The breath eases, the shoulders drop, the nervous system stops bracing and begins to bless. A good name is not a brand you polish in public. A good name is a private consistency, so faithful that it spills into every room. It is telling the truth when lying would be easier and no one would catch you. It is keeping promises that cost you more than you predicted. It is choosing kindness when sarcasm would win the moment and wound the year. Over time, these choices carve a riverbed in the soul, and the water of your life runs clear enough that others can drink from it without wondering what they are swallowing. That is legacy, not perfection; direction, not performance; presence. There is a quiet relief in recognizing that legacy is built in the ordinary, in the way you greet the morning before the day demands its price, in the patience you hold when someone is slower than your plans, in the restraint you practice when anger asks for ownership of your mouth, in the gratitude you name out loud so that the atmosphere of your home becomes a soft place to land. These are not small things. They are the brick and mortar of a future you may never see and yet are already shaping. What you repeat becomes what you bequeath. Many inherit money and do not inherit meaning. When meaning is missing, money obeys the loudest appetite in the room. Cycles repeat, not because people are foolish, but because values were never made plain enough to become rails. You can change that, not by performance, not by speeches, but by clarity. What do we stand for in this house? What do we refuse to trade? What do we do when pressure is high and no one is watching? These sentences, spoken and lived, become the architecture of belonging. They become the notes future generations read when the noise of the world is too loud to think. Picture a small ritual at the end of a week. A lamp on, a table cleared, a page waiting. Some give it a simple name to honor its simplicity. A weekly legacy letter, not a grand manifesto. A paragraph that carries 3 living pieces. A principle you are practicing. A story from your own life that proves it under real conditions. A small action that brings that principle from the air into the ground. Over time, these letters become a map of your heart. They gather like seeds in an envelope. And when someone you love needs direction, you are not offering vague inspiration. You're handing them seeds that have already grown fruit in your own soil. You may feel resistance as you imagine this, not because the practice is heavy, but because the soul understands the weight of meaning and the body wants to be sure you will carry it gently. Let that resistance be named and then let it be soothed by truth. You do not need to be extraordinary to leave a beautiful inheritance. You need to be consistent in small human ways. You need to show the people who watch you, and they are always watching, how to turn toward wisdom when the wind picks up and the sky does not promise a calm harvest. Let your heart hold a question with soft hands. If my children copied my week, would I be proud of their life? If you do not have children, hear the same question in another key. If the ones who learn from me copied my week, would I be proud of their life? Do not race to defend yourself. Do not race to condemn yourself. Let the answer arrive with the dignity of a guest. If it brings gratitude, say thank you under your breath. If it brings grief, do not hide. Grief can be a doorway when it is paired with wisdom and mercy. In the end, Solomon returns us to a center that does not move. Reverence is the beginning of true understanding. Alignment with what is good and holy is not a list of rules. It is a relationship that steadies the nervous system and clears the mind. When a life is built there, a good name grows without striving. The seasons may be harsh. The winds may be loud. The tree remains, and under its shade people rest without asking who paid for the branches. The answer is written in the roots. You are not late to this work. Your days, however many they are, still carry the power to bend the arc of a story away from noise and toward peace. Let your name become a place where others feel safe. Let your values become a path others can walk without tripping over hidden wires. Let your love be strong enough to tell the truth and gentle enough to be heard. When time looks back from a distance that you will not measure, it will point to the quiet choices and say, that is where the future turned, and the name it speaks will be yours, not as a brand to admire, but as a shelter built from the inside out. There was once a city known for its markets and music, a bright place where travelers said the fruit tasted sweeter and the fountains never ran dry. The streets were orderly, the homes were warm, the people were skilled and generous. Success gathered like birds at dusk, yet along the edge of all that beauty stood a long, unfinished wall. Stones were stacked, but not secured. Gaps were covered with cloth and hope. Repairs were always planned for another season because the present felt safe enough and the center felt strong enough. Then a night came that was not dramatic, only wind and ordinary darkness. No army marched, no trumpet sounded. A single loose stone shifted, then another. Foxes slipped through. Strangers followed the path the foxes made. The city woke to a quiet kind of damage, not a blaze, a leak, not a siege, a slow surrender. People hurried to the gates with questions that carried more fear than anger. How did strength become fragile without a single decisive blow? The elders walked the perimeter with lamps and sorrow. They found the breaches where maintenance had been postponed, where weather had worn the edges thin, where beautiful plans had taken the place of steady work. The city did not fall because its heart was weak. It trembled because its borders were neglected. The lesson was not about paranoia. It was about attention. As the lamps traced the cracks, the wisdom of Solomon rose like dawn from the fields. Delay had cost more than time. Every small decision postponed had left a stone loose and a seam unsealed. The work that would have been light yesterday asked for strength today. Discipline was not a whip. It was mortar that keeps the wall from shifting when the ground moves. Alignment returned to the faces of those who understood. The repair begins where delay once lived. Another breach showed the stain of glittering shortcuts. Prosperity had come fast, but not all of it had come clean. The city had traded a little integrity for a little speed, a little clarity for a little applause. The stones set during those days did not bond. They looked right from the road and broke under a hand. Integrity was not a decoration for sunny weather. It was the weight that makes a wall believable in wind. There was a hush among the builders as they chose heavier stones and carried them without complaint, because peace is lighter to carry than the cost of collapse. At the northern edge stood a tower where the watchmen had been chosen more for charm than for courage. Their smiles were bright, their stories were thrilling, and their counsel was a fog that felt like warmth. The city loved them and paid for it with confusion. When the right voices were restored to that height, the air changed. Wisdom does not shout to impress. It speaks with a tone that makes the heart stand up straight. Curated counsel became a gate within the gate. Only voices that strengthened the city's clarity were invited near. Love remained. Access changed. The tower began to earn its name again. Near the main gate, a different kind of damage had formed. The hinges were worn not by enemies, but by careless words from the city's own. Jests that cut a little too deep, debates that escalated when silence would have kept the peace, announcements made in haste that strangers repeated with glee. The gate had become noisy and thin. The repair was not complicated, and it was not easy. Fewer words, truer words, words chosen with timing as well as content. The people practiced a new rhythm. They let pauses carry meaning where volume had failed. The hinges quieted. The gate stood straight. At the center, beneath the square where families gathered at dusk, the foundation was studied. The stones looked solid. The elders tapped them with rods and listened. Some sounded hollow. In seasons of abundance, values had been assumed rather than spoken, admired rather than enacted. The city remembered that money is a guest and character is the house. They began to write their convictions not as slogans, but as living customs. They told their children stories of patience and reverence, of generosity and restraint. Roots went deeper. The foundation began to sing again when the rods touched it. When dawn finally spread its light across the repaired wall, the city did not cheer as if it had conquered a famous enemy. It breathed as if it had remembered itself. The markets opened with a quieter confidence. The music returned with a cleaner tone. Travelers could not name what felt different and kept using the same words for sweetness and song. The difference was not in the fruit or the fountain, it was in the unseen. The wall stood because the inner life stood. Delay met discipline. Shiny shortcuts met integrity. Charming noise met wise counsel. Impulsive speech met timing and truth. Inheritance without values met a foundation that could carry weight. This is how a life becomes a shelter, not by dramatic victories, but by steady alignments that no longer wait for a perfect season. The winds will rise again. They always do. The city will hear them without panic, because the borders no longer borrow their strength from mood or momentum. They borrow it from wisdom that has moved from the page into the practice of daily decisions. And as evening comes, the lamps will move along the stones, not to search for disaster, but to admire the quiet faithfulness that keeps love safe within and keeps harm gentle at the gate. There is a hush that follows honest truth, the kind of quiet that is not empty but full, like a field just after rain. You can feel it in your body. The breath is less jagged. The shoulders remember their natural place. The heart, which has been a faithful drummer through long seasons of noise, begins to keep time with something steadier than urgency. In that hush, the word chance stops sounding like a threat and starts sounding like a gift, not a final window before everything closes, a present window before your habits decide for you. Wisdom is here in the room with you, patient and unafraid. We have walked together through the rooms where delay gains interest, and where small obedience restores clarity. We have stepped past doors where shimmer tries to pass for substance, and where alignment returns peace to the chest. We have touched the gate of your circle and felt how counsel shapes courage or slowly steals it. We have held fire in the mouth and learned the gentle weight of timing, how words can heal when the heart is as careful as it is brave. We have stood by the roots of a name and listened for the deep music that only character can make. We have walked the perimeter of a city and watched how steady stones protect what you love. All of it lives here now, not as pressure, as presence. There is no shouting in this minute. There is no spectacle. There is only the calm dignity that comes when your inner world and your outer choices begin to recognize each other again. Your nervous system will thank you for this. Your sleep will thank you. The faces that meet you at the table will feel the weather change. Not because you performed a new role, but because you returned to your right pace. Wisdom does that. It realigns, it remembers who you are beneath the hurry. Solomon's counsel was never about becoming impressive. It was about becoming whole. The way of wisdom is quiet strength, steady mercy, truthful love. It is the kind of clarity that does not need to be loud to be sure. It is the kind of reverence that steadies the mind and softens the jaw. When that way becomes your way, even in small measures, the future stops feeling like a cliff and starts feeling like a path you can walk with a lamp in your hand and peace in your chest. Let a single question rest with you as the light fades on this chapter. Which wall will you lay today? Not to rush you, not to measure you, to honor you, to give shape to what your heart already knows, the stone of early obedience, the stone of integrity over glitter, the stone of wise counsel, the stone of measured words, the stone of a name worth inheriting. Listen for the one that answers from the inside with a warmth you can trust. If you are breathing easier, hold that as evidence that wisdom has entered and fear has taken a step back. If you are feeling tender, hold that as evidence that something true has touched a place that matters. The day will move on. The clock will do what the clock does. Yet inside you, there is a new rhythm, ancient and fresh at the same time, and it will be enough. Before the day ends, let the heart whisper back to the knock you have heard throughout these moments. What will you begin before the day ends?